Blessings to everyone. Buddhism has no boundaries. No matter which country you're from, whatever your nationality, whether you're male or female, young or old, everyone can practice. If done correctly and sufficiently, everyone has the right to access the Dharma. Therefore, the true Dharma is universal, a treasure of the world. Everyone has the right to engage with it and claim it. It all depends on whether we practice correctly and adequately. Some may practice correctly, but not enough, doing it intermittently. Such individuals will never truly understand the Dharma. First and foremost, we must understand before practicing Dharma, and before claiming we are Buddhists. The pinnacle of Buddhist teachings is about the Four Noble Truths. When Lord Buddha achieved enlightenment, he said he realized the Four Noble Truths. Thus, as long as the principles of the Four Noble Truths remain, Buddhism will continue to exist. The scriptures state that even if only one of the 5 precepts remains, Buddhism is not lost. In reality, it's already lost. The precepts existed even before Lord Buddha. The decisive indicator of whether Buddhism will continue to thrive depends on whether there are still those who understand the Four Noble Truths. If one understands the Four Noble Truths, they are truly Buddhists at heart. When Lord Buddha achieved enlightenment, he stated that he had contemplated and understood the Four Noble Truths: suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. He knew what actions or duties were associated with each of these truths: suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path. He was aware of this and had fulfilled those duties accordingly. If he hadn't understood the Four Noble Truths, if he hadn't known the duties associated with each truth, if he hadn't performed the tasks for all these Four Noble Truths, he wouldn't have proclaimed himself as the Buddha. Thus, the reason he became the Buddha is because of the Four Noble Truths. So, if we genuinely want to understand Buddhism, at one point we must have a clear understanding of these Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths begin with the truth of suffering. True Buddhism doesn't aim for good fortune, wealth, benefits, or desires like wanting to become a deity, an ascetic, ascend to heaven, become a Brahma, or become wealthy. These are not the intentions of Lord Buddha. The pinnacle of Buddhism is about suffering. How can we be free from it? This is what we seek for, the ultimate answer in Buddhism. Buddhism addresses this very issue: the matter of suffering and the cessation of suffering. The primary teachings revolve around these two main topics, which are encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths. The concept of suffering. What is referred to as suffering? Aging is suffering. Pain is suffering. Death is suffering. This pertains to physical suffering. Another form of suffering is mental anguish. Desiring something and not obtaining it is suffering. 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 Desiring something and not obtaining encountering things we dislike, or facing circumstances we'd rather avoid is also suffering. For instance, if we deeply dislike someone and are forced to meet them, we suffer. If we love someone and wish for them to be with us, but they are not, we suffer. And if we do have them by our side, but then lose them, be it through them loving someone else, or them passing away, the separation from our loved ones leads to suffering. This is mental suffering. Not obtaining our desires, regardless of what they are, is suffering. When we yearn for something, regardless of what it is, if we don't get what we desire, we suffer. Therefore, suffering has two parts. Physical suffering, where we will have to age, we will have to hurt, we will have to die. And mental suffering, such as the separation from what we love, encountering things we dislike, unfulfilled desires, resentment, sorrow, and the discomfort of body and mind. This is what is called suffering. Suffering exists in countless forms. Let's consider the suffering related to the body. When we are born with a body, this body is a result of actions, thus a karmic consequence. The karmic consequence isn't a defilement in itself. Having this body isn't a defilement. And the body is not karmic action, but rather a consequence of it. For instance, some people conduct good deeds and uphold virtues. The Buddha said that they can possess beautiful bodies. Like the celestial beings, they have beautiful bodies because they have upheld virtues. Or some people have good intelligence, mindfulness, and wisdom because they once cultivated wisdom. Therefore, regarding the body, whether it's beautiful or not, strong or weak, has a long life or short, these are results from the past, consequences of past actions, which can't be changed. Our duty towards the body is to alleviate its suffering. If it suffers from hunger, we provide food to ease its pain. If it's cold, we provide clothing to comfort it. If it's ill, we seek medical treatment and medicine to relieve its discomfort. For the body, all we can do is alleviate its suffering. But one day, we won't be able to soothe it. One day, it will inevitably disintegrate. No matter how well we take care of it, one day it will break down. Most people, when their bodies age, suffer because they don't want to age. Why does it cause suffering? Because they wish not to age. The body feels pain, and it becomes a source of distress. The distress is not because the body is in pain, but because they don't want to feel the pain, or wish for a swift recovery. Facing death, not wanting to die causes suffering. But if we understand the truth about the body, we realize that from its birth, the body is always under the grip of suffering. This is the reality of the body. We cannot prevent aging, pain, or death. If we practice Dharma and cultivate insight meditation, which is about understanding the truth of the body and mind through being aware of our body on and on, we'll see, as mentioned, the body is suffering, and Lord Buddha explicitly pointed out our duty towards suffering. It is to be aware, not to avoid. Regarding our body, how can we neglect it? It exists. This body is the locus of suffering. We must experience aging, pain, and death. However, if we practice until our mind accepts the truth that the body naturally ages, hurts, and dies, when it ages, we will simply observe the body aging without feeling that we are aging. There's no desire to resist aging. Thus, we won't suffer mentally. Suffering remains in the body, but it doesn't reach the mind. This is the Dharma practice, as we recognize the truth about the body. It still ages, hurts, and dies, but our mind remains untroubled. This is the core principle of practice in Buddhism. At the beginning, I spoke about the important concept, which is the Four Noble Truths: suffering, its cause, its ending, and the path. Lord Buddha taught our duty towards suffering, its cause, its ending, and the path. Our responsibility towards suffering is to be aware of it, not to avoid it. When we wish not to suffer, we intensify our suffering even more. The desire not to age brings suffering. The wish not to feel pain causes suffering. The longing not to die creates suffering. The yearning not to be separated from our loved ones leads to suffering. Every arising desire is inherently suffering. Hence, Lord Buddha did not instruct us to wish for the absence of suffering, but to understand the true nature of it. To summarize what was discussed about suffering. Suffering has two parts: the body and the mind. The suffering of the body is inevitable once we are born. We must age, feel pain, and ultimately die. However, we see the truth of the body. Suffering is something to be aware, which is the truth of the body and the mind. If we know the truth that the body must age, hurt, and die, and accept this truth, we will not harbor desires for the body not to age, not to hurt, and not to die. When such desires do not arise, suffering will be confined to the body, but will not reach our mind. Therefore, let us be aware of suffering, which is indeed both the body and the mind. The first and most apparent form of suffering we can observe is in our own body. Observe continuously to see the truth. Our body, which we often think is at ease, is in reality not. Sitting for long periods causes pain and discomfort. Continuous inhalation without exhalation is uncomfortable and suffering. Similarly, if we can't breathe in due to a blocked nose, we suffer. When suffering reaches its peak, the body disintegrates and dies. Thus, the body is naturally under constant pressure from suffering. We should be mindful and aware of our body frequently. Feeling the body breathing in, breathing out. Being aware when body standing, walking, sitting, lying down, noticing body moves and stays still. Keep feeling continuously, and we will see that our body is entirely immersed in suffering. This is the beginning of recognizing the body as suffering. Focus on the sensations in the body first. Be aware, don't forget yourself, don't forget your body. Lord Buddha taught to be aware of suffering. Continuously sense the existence of our body. Then observe, for example, when we sit for a long time, we feel pain and stiffness, prompting us to move around. Why do we move? Because the body suffers, and we try to escape this suffering. Why do we need to inhale and then exhale? Why do we exhale and then inhale? Because only inhaling causes suffering, just as only exhaling does. Not breathing at all leads to even greater suffering. Therefore, when we inhale, it is to alleviate the suffering of exhaling, and when we exhale, it is to relieve the suffering of inhaling. Our changing postures, standing, walking, sitting, lying down, are all to alleviate suffering. For example, when we sit for too long and feel stiff, we stand up. If standing too long becomes uncomfortable, we walk. After walking a lot and becoming tired, we sit down again. After sitting for a while, lying down seems better. Even when lying down, there's no real comfort. We have to turn left and right, flipping over numerous times, perhaps 30 to 40 times a night. Why must our bodies constantly turn and toss? It's because the body is constantly under the pressure of suffering. By being mindful and aware of our body's movements, we realize that the body has no inherent goodness. It is solely suffering. This is to be aware of suffering. This is the first duty. In the Four Noble Truths, to understand suffering. The same goes for our mind. Our mind is also filled with suffering. Whenever there's desire, suffering arises every time. Observe this pattern. In the initial stages of practice, we will notice that whenever our mind desires something, people in the world usually fulfill those desires to address their mental suffering. Want to travel? Then travel. Want a partner? Find a partner. Whatever the mind desires, we follow it. Satisfying these desires provides temporary relief from suffering, but soon after, suffering arises again in another form. This way, the problem is never resolved completely. Therefore, the worldly approach to alleviating mental suffering, which is satisfying desires, never truly resolves suffering. Once one desire is satisfied, another arises. For instance, initially, there is a longing for a partner. Once you have a partner, the desire shifts to wanting to marry. After marriage, there might be a desire to separate and find someone else. Desire is endless. Lord Buddha likened desire to the vast ocean. No matter how much water is poured into it, it never overflows. Similarly, no matter how much we try to satisfy our desires, they never cease. Once one desire is fulfilled, another emerges in its place. Hence, Lord Buddha did not teach us to indulge in defilements, which are desires cravings. He instructed us to let go of the cause, or the craving, and not to constantly follow our desires. By continuously yielding to them, we become more enslaved by these cravings, allowing them to control our lives. We end up struggling tirelessly, both physically and mentally, all because of our efforts to satisfy these endless desires. Therefore, satisfying desires is not a permanent solution to mental suffering. It offers only temporary relief. This leads to the question: how can we refrain from indulging in our desires? Some schools of practice, sects, or religions suggest outright denial. If there's a desire to eat, they fast and don't eat at all. If there's a desire to sleep, they avoid sleeping. To combat the desire for comfort, they might sit on nails or thorns, continuously subjecting themselves to hardship in the hope that one day the desires will cease. Torturing the body or mind does not truly solve the problem of desire. We are deceived by it. When we indulge in our desires, we are defeated. Then, in an attempt to resist, we don't allow ourselves to follow these cravings, struggling vehemently against them. We exert so much control over our body and mind that it leads to stress. This doesn't actually free us from mental suffering. Even when we deny ourselves, like fasting or enduring hardships, we feel we are not succumbing to our desires. But we fail to realize that this is another form of delusion. We hold the mistaken belief that continuously denying our cravings will lead us to overcome them. In reality, the force driving us to reject these cravings is a desire itself. It's a deeper layer of craving. It's not just about craving food, sleep, a partner, or other things, but a craving to conquer our desires. This, too, is a form of desire. Lord Buddha thus taught us to be aware of suffering. Be aware of the body. When we see the truth of the body, that it must age, suffer pain, and die, the desire for the body not to age, not to suffer, and not to die does not arise. This is how we relinquish desire through wisdom, not by suppression or repression. Similarly, we should observe the truth of our minds. It's not difficult to practice mindfulness as taught. Just be observant of our mental states. Our minds fluctuate between happiness and suffering, good and bad, greed, anger, delusion, awareness, and distraction. Our mind swings back and forth like this throughout the day. We should be aware on and on. When the mind is happy, know so. When it suffers, know so. When it is virtuous, know so. When it is caught in greed, anger, or delusion, know so. When it's self-aware, know so. And when it's lost, know so. Practice this awareness frequently. Gradually, we will begin to see the truth, whether the mind is good or bad, happy or suffering, aware or deluded. All states of mind are impermanent, arise and then fall away. And whether the mind is good or bad, we cannot choose. Whether it is happy or suffering, we cannot dictate. We truly don't have the power to control the mind. The mind is impermanent, constantly changing. It's not self beyond control. Being aware of these changes in the mind is also understanding suffering. What do we see upon realizing this? We see that the mind is impermanent. The mind is suffering. The mind is uncontrollable. Just as being aware of the body is a form of understanding suffering, So is being aware of the mind, because what is referred to as suffering encompasses the 5 aggregates, physical and mental parts, which are essentially the body and the mind. Therefore, by continuously being mindful and aware of the body, we will see that it is filled with suffering. Suffering due to aging, pain, and death, suffering from illness, hunger, and even suffering from being too full, suffering when there's nothing to eat, suffering from excessive excretion or difficulty in excretion. Constantly observing the body, we realize that it is not something good or wonderful, but rather suffering, and we cannot truly control this body. We cannot command it not to age, not to hurt, not to die. The body is not self. It is suffering. It is uncontrollable. And if we maintain mindfulness, being aware of our own mind or heart, experiencing moments of happiness and suffering, good and bad mental states, we will see that each state of mind, whether good or bad, happy or suffering, arises and then ceases. They are all impermanent. A happy state of mind is impermanent, as is a suffering state of mind. Understanding this, the desire for the mind to be constantly happy will not arise. Because we know that happiness is impermanent, we may struggle desperately in search of happiness, but once obtained, it lasts only a moment before it fades away, due to its impermanence. By realizing the truth that the body is impermanent, suffering, and uncontrollable, and the mind is also impermanent, suffering, and uncontrollable, the more we witness this reality, the clearer our understanding becomes. This is called understanding suffering. When we clearly understand suffering, we will automatically let go of the cause of suffering. Not intentionally, but naturally. The craving is naturally relinquished. For instance, as we clearly understand the body, acknowledging that it is impermanent, subject to aging, pain, and death, and that we cannot control or prevent these processes, not self, our mind loses its craving. The desire not to age is naive. Why yearn for it? Even if we wish not to age, we will still age. Despite wishing not to feel pain, we will still suffer. Even if we wish not to die, death is inevitable. Once we see this truth, the desire related to the body ceases. When we lose desires related to the body, we stop clinging to it. This clinging is rooted in desire. When there is no more clinging, whether the body ages, suffers, or dies, our mind remains undisturbed. By continually observing our mind in this way, we come to realize its impermanence. The happy mind is impermanent, as is the suffering mind. The virtuous mind is impermanent, as is the greedy, the angry, or the deluded mind. The knowing mind is impermanent, as is the lost mind. The mind is consistently impermanent. The desire for the mind to be constant, unchanging, will dissipate. This includes the desire for a particular state of the mind, like those who are absorbed in meditation, like those who are adept in deep meditative states. They can achieve calmness in the blink of an eye and reside in that state as long as they please. This makes them think that the mind is constant and happy. However, no matter how skilled one is in jhana, eventually the mind will move out of this state of concentration. It is, by its nature, impermanent. No matter what we do, we can't make the mind permanent. We can't command the mind to be happy or sad, good or evil, aware or deluded. We must continually observe this truth of the mind. That we come to learn truth of our body and mind is what we call insight meditation. This is understanding suffering. In the practice of insight within the scope of 4 foundations of mindfulness, being aware of the body and mind equates to understanding suffering. When we clearly understand suffering, we naturally let go of the craving or desire. For instance, when we realize the impermanence of happiness, throughout our lives, we have struggled to find joy. Notice how our daily life is filled with numerous struggles to be happy and at peace. However, when we understand the truth that the happiness in our mind is temporary and cannot be sustained, and the suffering in our mind cannot be prevented, when it wants to suffer, it will, and we can't chase it away as it's beyond our control. Once we see the truth of the mind, that it is impermanent and non-self, not under our control, then our attachment and desires will fall away. When we understand that happiness is not lasting, our mind loses the desire for it. Our mind stops the constant struggle for happiness. If we look closely at our everyday struggles, they are primarily about seeking happiness and avoiding suffering. All desires essentially boil down to wanting the body and mind to be happy and free from suffering. That's all. But if we see the truth, the happiness in our hearts is not permanent. It is fleeting and then vanishes. The suffering in our hearts is also not permanent. Why hate it? It comes and goes. Happiness comes and goes. When we see this truth, we realize that happiness and suffering are equal in their impermanence and uncontrollability. They are beyond our command. We cannot force happiness or prevent suffering. Once we realize that happiness and suffering are equal in their characteristics of impermanence and uncontrollability, our mind loses its craving. Why yearn for the mind to be constantly happy and undergo so much struggle and exhaustion in life for something so fleeting? Is it really worth it, devoting an entire life to the pursuit of happiness, yet never truly achieving it? Many people work from the crack of dawn until midnight, laboring intensely in the hope that having a lot of money will one day bring them happiness. They work tirelessly, amassing wealth, becoming rich, but they don't have the time to enjoy their earnings. There's no happiness, just daily stress about making a living. As they age and have more money, their health deteriorates. No matter how much money they have, it all goes to medical expenses, doctors' fees, and medication. They work themselves to exhaustion to earn money, only to spend it on healthcare. Their lives are devoid of happiness. It echoes an old Chinese teaching that, in reality, human life never truly experiences happiness. As children, our bodies were strong, and we have lots of time, but we had no money. We had to depend on our parents or siblings for everything, as we couldn't afford it. In our youth and middle age, time becomes scarce. Because of work commitments, when we were young, we had a lot of time. When we're grown up, we work our fingers to bones, while we might have money and good health then. There's little time to truly enjoy life. As we grow older and retire, we may have both time and money saved up. But often, our health deteriorates. Thus, in childhood, we suffer from a lack of financial independence. In adulthood, from a lack of time, and in old age, from poor health. Life never seems to be complete at any stage. So, if we don't understand our own life, if we don't learn to know our body and mind, we will simply follow what others do. Even I myself went through this. As a child, I focused intently on my studies, excelling and being diligent. When working, I worked hard, saved money, and did what everyone else did. I studied because others did, worked because others did, and started a family because others did. But then, one day, there came a moment of realization, questioning what in life is truly enduring. At that time, Kun Mei Nude had not yet married. She knew that I had been practicing Dharma from a young age, and I taught her to do that too. Kun Mei Nude felt that as long as she remained a layperson, constantly working with no end in sight, she wouldn't be able to practice Dharma seriously. Her days were filled with thoughts of work and other worldly concerns. So, she suggested to me that we should ordain. I had already been longing for ordination, so once initiated, I had no hesitation. Once ordained, I had more time. At the time of ordination, I wasn't too old and my body was still strong. As monastics, we didn't need much money, allowing me to spend time learning about the body and the mind. This journey led me to discover what was truly valuable in life. Finding true happiness. We had struggled so hard in search of happiness and to avoid suffering. But when we truly engage in practice, continuously learning about the realities of the body and mind, we come to accept that the body is impermanent, suffering, and beyond control. We accept the truth that the mind too is impermanent, suffering, and not self. The desire for the body to be free from suffering no longer arises, nor does the desire for the mind to be constantly happy. Because we see that happiness is not permanent, when the mind is free from these desires, it no longer clings to the body or the mind. Thus, it is free from the constant struggle. When we cling to the body, we engage in endless struggles to prevent aging, pain, and death. We try various methods like taking medications, getting Botox injections for a wrinkle-free face, or undergoing surgeries to tighten sagging skin. We tirelessly seek ways to escape reality, but ultimately, we can't escape the truth. The exterior might look youthful, but the internal body still deteriorates. There's no true happiness in this denial. Once we see the truth of the body, we don't suffer because of it. When we understand the truth of the mind, we are freed from the suffering caused by these desires. The mind, liberated from desires, ceases its restless striving and formations. It reaches a state of nibbana. Nibbana is peace. If someone asks us what Nibbana is, as Buddhists, we shouldn't say that it is a separate world, a heavenly realm with the Buddha presiding, filled with enlightened one and future Buddhas. That depiction is more of a myth, or a pedagogical tool used by ancient people to appeal to those with less developed spiritual faculties, to give them an initial, tangible concept of Nibbana to aspire to. But as we mature spiritually, as our faculties develop, and as we continue our practice, we find the true Nibbana. Nibbana is peace. The mind that is free from striving and fabrication is peaceful. The peaceful mind is profoundly content. The mind that is constantly struggling under the power of desire is devoid of such contentment. When our mind realizes the truth, that this body and mind are not special treasures, but are impermanent, suffering, and not self, it is recognized as a source of suffering. When such understanding is reached, desires cease to arise in the mind. There is no longer a craving for the body to avoid aging, pain, or death, nor is there a longing for the mind to experience only pleasant emotions and avoid the unpleasant. We cannot choose whether we would encounter likable or unlikable situations. It is a matter of karma. If we have negative karma, we may face unfavorable circumstances. Positive karma leads to favorable experiences. When we practice Dharma extensively, learn more about the body and mind, and profoundly understand suffering, we begin to see the truth of our physical and mental states. Realizing the truth about the body, desires cease to arise, because such desire is essentially a longing for the body to be at ease and not to suffer. Similarly, a profound understanding of the mind leads to the end of craving, as this craving is just a wish for the mind to be happy and not to suffer. Understanding this truth leads to the cessation of desire and the acceptance of reality. For instance, as I mentioned, if we age and cannot accept it, we suffer. But if we accept our aging, we can feel proud to have lived long enough to grow old. Many people die young. We are fortunate to have lived to an old age. Aging, then, takes place without sorrow, but can arise together with contentment and peace. If we can accept what we have and who we are. our hearts will not suffer, and desires will not arise. For instance, if we cannot accept that we must age, feel pain, and eventually die, then we crave not to age, not to hurt, not to die, and this leads to suffering. However, if our heart can accept the truth that all emotions passing through our mind are impermanent, happiness is not permanent, suffering is not permanent, good is not permanent, bad is not permanent, pleasing forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches are all impermanent. Regardless of what the mind has observed, it's all impermanent. Once the mind accepts this, it stops endlessly seeking happiness. The mind free from craving and striving reaches a state of peace. Nibbana has several characteristics. It is a state of peace, a tranquility arising from the cessation of all fabrications. These fabrications of the mind are born from desire, which in turn arises from not seeing the body and mind as they truly are. When we perceive the body and mind in their true nature, we gain wisdom and can abandon ignorance, which is the failure to see the body and mind as they truly are. Once we see the truth, desire ceases, and with it, the restless fabrications of the mind stop. A mind free from striving and fabrication reaches the unfabricated, one of the names for Nibbana. Nibbana has many names and attributes. It is a state of peace, a state free from fabrication referred to as Visankara, and a state where we are liberated from attachment to mind and matter. Essentially, it represents the freedom of the mind, freedom from all emotions, whether good or bad, joyous or sorrowful. Regardless of what happens to the body or mind, the mind remains free and unaffected. Even when impacted by positive or negative experiences, the mind retains its freedom from these emotions. An enlightened one, indeed, may still perceive unpleasant stimuli. They can see unattractive forms, experience dirty or unpleasant things, and smell foul odors, as they still have their physical senses, including the nose to smell and the tongue to taste. Thus, an enlightened one might see both pleasant and unpleasant images, and hear both pleasing and displeasing sounds. They might hear people expressing appreciation or disparagement. The experience of pleasant or unpleasant sensory inputs is unavoidable. However, the key difference is in the response of the enlightened one's mind to these stimuli. Regardless of whether the experiences are pleasant or unpleasant, the mind of an enlightened one remains undisturbed, tranquil and peaceful. Nothing can sway their minds. This is when one's achieved true happiness and peace. I am well acquainted with worldly happiness, having experienced it before my ordination. Like many of you, I was once a layperson, leading a life with a loving family, financial comfort, and material ease. Despite this, I felt something was missing deep within. This feeling came from my long practice of Dharma. I knew that worldly happiness was not enduring and that there must be something beyond this kind of happiness. Dissatisfied with just the fleeting pleasures of the world, I continued my practice, and the mind eventually accessed true peace and happiness. I knew that the mind transcended the desires, striving, and fabrications thanks to higher wisdom. Upon truly witnessing the truth of body and mind could relinquish desires, striving, and fabrications, the mind then reached a state of true peace and happiness. Lord Buddha stated that there is no happiness equal to peace, and the ultimate form of peace is Nibbana. This peace is a tranquility that transcends all mental fabrications. Can we see the big picture in our practice? This is the overview of the Dharma practice. We practice by understanding suffering, by being aware of our body and mind on and on. We have a body, we have a mind, and we should be aware of them. If the body moves or the mind changes, sense it. We keep sensing them until we can see and accept the truth that the body is impermanent, suffering, and not self, and that the mind is impermanent, suffering, and not self. When the mind accepts this truth, all the desires cease to arise. All desires arise from our inability to accept what we have and our current state of being. For instance, when we are unhappy, we desire happiness, something we don't have. Once we attain happiness, we want it to last forever. But why do we desire perpetual happiness? Because there is no such thing as everlasting happiness. We always long for what we don't have and have no desire on what we already have. We desire permanence in things that are impermanent. We wish for pleasure in things that are inherently suffering. When we are happy, we want that happiness to continue indefinitely, never knowing an end. Through Dharma practice, we come to see the truth of the body and the mind, and this understanding leads to the abandonment of desire. When our heart lets go of desires, it ceases its restless striving. It attains peace and happiness. This is true Nibbana, and there is nothing more valuable than this in the world. Some people think money is valuable, but as mentioned earlier, when we work, we earn money, but don't have the time to enjoy it or find happiness. As we age and have money, we end up spending it all on doctors and hospitals. We lack the time, and our bodies aren't strong enough to seek happiness. Life is inherently deficient at every age. As children, we suffer childlike troubles. As youths, we have the sorrows of young people. In old age, we face the suffering of the elderly. This is the reality of life. If we can accept this reality, we won't suffer. So, we learn about the body and mind until we accept the truth of life, and then we won't suffer. Do you understand? The suffering arises because of desire. Desire comes from not seeing the reality of the body and mind. Therefore, there's a longing for the body and mind to be perpetually well and happy, to never experience suffering. But if we continually maintain mindfulness, being aware of our body and mind, one day our mind will accept the truth. Once it accepts the truth, desires will not arise. Without desires, the mind attains peace and happiness. Nibbana is a state where craving ceases. Nibbana is not some other world. It is a state of no craving. When we rid ourselves of desires, our mind attains peace and happiness. Desire can cease if we truly understand the reality of the body and mind as impermanent, suffering, and not self. Therefore, when I and the team, be it by Parna Chonar, Kuhn Maynud, others come together to give talks. They guide us in the practice of how to properly feel the body so that we can see the three characteristics. They show us the correct way to sense our mind so that we can see the three characteristics. These teachings are tactics, strategies, methods of practice. So, the principle that I guides currently is the overarching framework. We need to learn the truth about the body and mind. Once we understand the truth of the body and mind, we will end our desires. When desires end, the mind is freed from suffering and attains Nibbana. How can we realize the truth of the body and mind? We will continue to learn. Each teacher has their own techniques and artistry in understanding their body and mind. Different teachers might speak differently about their practices because Dharma practice is an art. The core of the practice, as I has now told us, lies in the Noble Truths. Understanding suffering, letting go of the cause of suffering, and then achieving enlightenment and the Noble Path. The essence of practice lies right here. So, how do we come to understand suffering? Suffering encompasses both body and mind. Some people need to be aware of the body first, while others might need to start with the mind. There are various ways to know the mind. Some people may first become aware of their feelings of happiness and suffering, while others might notice the wholesome or unwholesome states of their mind. Some might become aware of the mind's activities through the sense doors: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Do you see? There are numerous methods and approaches to practice. Therefore, before reaching these points, we must first establish a solid foundation. We need to understand the body and mind as they truly are. Once we truly understand the body and mind, our desires will cease. When desires cease, suffering ends. Seeing the body and mind as they truly are is having wisdom that destroys ignorance. Destroying ignorance prevents the arising of craving. Clinging doesn't occur. The cycle of becoming, the restless fabrications of the mind, doesn't occur. And the cycle of birth, the attachment to our 6 sense doors, does not occur. As a result, suffering does not arise. As for practice, it's broad and varied because people's temperaments and dispositions differ greatly. For instance, some people enjoy practicing meditation, and there are specific practices for those who like meditation, including various methods to enter deep meditative absorption. There are countless ways to achieve this. Focusing on the breath can lead to jhana, as can contemplation of the body, hair, nails, teeth, and skin. Continuously spreading loving kindness can also lead to jhana. Some people need to enter jhana because they enjoy it. Once they achieve jhana, some may choose to leave it and then cultivate wisdom externally, while others may develop wisdom while remaining in jhana. Everyone is different, and some people may not be able to enter jhana at all. For many of us nowadays, achieving jhana is not feasible, so we practice momentary samadhi or concentration, known as khanika samadhi. It is when the mind drifts away, we know so, drift again, know so again, repeatedly. Eventually, the mind becomes self-aware and vividly upright. Once our mind is vividly upright, when the body moves, the mindfulness will know as the mind is upright and neutral. Likewise, when the mind moves or changes, the mindfulness will know as the mind is upright and neutral. This process eventually gives rise to wisdom, which is right understanding. We understand that both the body and mind are suffering. There are various techniques and practices for this, and as we progress, we explore different skillful means and individual methods in our practice. Back when I was a layperson, when my mind was restless, I would practice mindfulness of breathing. However, I doesn't teach everyone to practice mindful breathing, as some people find it challenging. Focusing on the breath doesn't always bring calmness. For some, it can even increase restlessness. In such cases, we use other meditation objects. There are 40 different types of meditation objects for calmness. As for developing wisdom, there are various approaches. Practicing concentration first and then developing wisdom. Practicing both concentration and wisdom simultaneously, or developing wisdom first followed by concentration. There are 3 main approaches, and the practice of developing wisdom itself has many branches. One might start with observing the body or feelings of pleasure and pain, or one might begin with observing mental formations, the wholesome or unwholesome states. Or some might start with observing consciousness arising at the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. Each person's path is different, tailored to their individual aptitude and inclination. When we practice Dharma and reach the pinnacle, it's like standing atop a mountain. From there, we can see a 360-degree panorama. Every direction offers a view. There are paths leading up the mountain from all sides, but some paths may be treacherous, leading to cliffs, while others are steep and challenging. Some people enjoy the thrill of climbing steep mountains, finding joy in the challenge. Others may prefer a gentler slope to ascend. Thus, each person's approach to practice, their temperament and inclinations, varies. So, we must find the meditation object that suits us best. Regardless of the meditation object we choose, the foundation must be correct. The principle of practice must be right. So, the overall picture that I gives us is a macro view, a grand perspective, like having a map of the entire country of China. It is like each teacher, born in different provinces of China, specializes in their own region. One teacher may be an expert in one province, and another in a different one. They are not the same, But once you have practiced and understood, it's like ascending to a satellite and looking down to see the whole of China. Therefore, don't be surprised if different assistant teachers teach in varying ways. They are experts in their respective fields. There might be slight overlaps or discrepancies in their understanding, but what all these assistant teachers share is the principle of the Four Noble Truths that I has talked about. Similarly, we are like that too. If we continue to practice Dharma and eventually understand the Four Noble Truths, when we teach students, we will have expertise in different areas. If we haven't reached the ultimate peak, we will be proficient in certain aspects. For instance, if we have ascended the mountain from the east, we will be familiar with that path. When asked how to climb this mountain, we'll likely recommend the eastern route as the best. Another person who ascended from the west will know only that path and will advise accordingly. However, once we reach the summit, we realize that paths to the mountain are all around us, and just as many ways to fall off. We can do right and wrong in any meditation object. No meditation object is inherently better than another. If the principles are correct, it's right. If the principles are wrong, it's wrong. That should be enough for today's talk. Anymore, and it would be too much. We wouldn't be able to absorb it. This not just a proper amount you can take in. Do you feel how your minds are alert and lively? Seeing you all, I can tell your minds are eager and enthusiastic to practice fully. But let's see. This desire is also impermanent. Soon, it might turn into laziness. For today, I have given talk just enough. Now, you can continue learning with various assistant teachers. See for yourself which teacher's teachings resonate with you and follow that path. There are many paths up the mountain. I wish for everyone to practice diligently to reach the ultimate goal, which is Nibbana. My aspiration is for the Chinese people to understand the Dharma. Once the Chinese understand the Dharma, they will be able to preserve and perpetuate it.